This week on Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at the new Woody Harrelson film Champions, Jim Gaffigan and Ray Seahorn in a new offbeat sci-fi dramedy called Linoleum, Morgan Freeman and Cole Hauser in the serial killer thriller The Ritual Killer, the award-winning Irish film The Quiet Girl, plus a new documentary about influential rock and roll legend Little Richard. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. I'm Neil Rosen, and welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show, where we debate what's worth watching and what's not when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. Joining me are Lisa Rosman. Hello there, Lisa, from Signs and Sirens.
Hey, Dom.
Bill McCuddy's here, as always, from Gold Derby.
Neil.
And Justine Browning is here, returning to the show, my friend from Entertainment Weekly. Let's get started with a look at several new films and limited series in theaters and or streaming, beginning with Champions, starring Woody Harrelson. Let's take a look at a clip.
My name is Marcus Markovich, and I am going to be your basketball coach for the next 3 months.
Nope.
Wait, what?
I said nope.
Is this something he normally does?
Nope.
That's Darius. He's our best player. I'm Johnny. I'm your homie with an extra chromie.
Whoa.
Lisa.
Okay, so the headline here is I didn't hate this. And honestly, I think that's saying a lot, given that this is a movie about basketball players with intellectual disabilities from a Farrelly brother, who is not someone who's known for having a good track record in terms of sensitivity and representation. This is adapted from a true story. It stars the great Woody Harrelson as a professional basketball coach who's assigned to work with these players as part of his probation. It charts the team's path to the Special Olympics. It also charts Woody's path to essentially becoming a decent human being. And somehow it actually reflects every character here's unique struggles, strengths, endearing qualities. Am I saying that you need to put this in the top of your must-watch list? No. But actually, I always find Harrelson one of the most endearing actors around, and the supporting cast is terrific, including Cheech Marin, who I haven't seen in a while. And I really did feel a lot of satisfaction in how the movie concludes.
I have to say, I sat behind you in the screening, Neil, and I did not want to like this movie. I was nervous about how they were going to handle such sensitive material because we've seen it done wrong so many times. Yeah. It doesn't pander. There were stages I'm sitting there going, well, that was funny. That was quite clever. Okay, this is really touching. Oh, okay, I really like this movie. And there's a character who, played by Caitlin Olsen from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who could be the stock love interest character, but she's really in the driver's seat a lot for her role, literally, because he has a DUI. And I found their relationship quite compelling. It felt very real.
Listen, we shouldn't like this movie. It's got a lot of the tropes of this sort of thing. Woody Harrelson at one point says, I'm in Hoosiers right now. He's basically making fun of the stuff that we've seen before. And on top of that, in 2023, it deals with kids who are mentally incapacitated in some way and are still very, very charming and winning and cool and interesting, and you're pulling for them. Does it seem like it's every other basketball movie you've ever seen at first?
No.
Yes, but then does it turn the corner and kind of win me over and win you over? It did for me, and I think it will for you.
The Farrelly brothers seem to feature in a lot of their films, like There's Something About Mary or Shallow Hal, people with disabilities. And they even won some prestigious award for inclusiveness and authentic representation of people with disabilities. So in this particular film, what I liked is the fact that the people with the intellectual disabilities here are presented with dignity, and that's a very hard thing to pull off, and they did it very well. And the movie not only has quite a number of laughs, it's never at the expense of these people, the basketball players on the team. Some of the movie is obvious. And there's some lulls in the film. But overall, I think it's a good effort, and it's made better by the performances. Woody, Caitlin Olsen, like you said. And there's a girl in there who's very funny, who has Down syndrome, Madison Tevlin. She has some very good lines. Very good.
Hilarious.
Yeah, so I actually recommend the movie. All of us were like, rolling our eyes before we saw it, and we were all pleasantly surprised.
Yep.
Justine, tell us about something called Wildflower.
Yes, well, this was directed by Matt Smuckler, and it stars Kiernan Shipka as a teen with two intellectually disabled parents, Dash Mihawk and Samantha Hyde.
I feel a theme here with the last two movies.
Yeah, kind of.
Absolutely, and this was actually inspired by the director's own experience with his niece and her relationship with her parents. And so in that way, I think the authenticity of the true experience, the real experience that inspires the film, really permeates what feels like a labor of love. It centers on this young woman as she recovers from an accident. She's unconscious. She's reflecting on her life and all of her experiences, and how these colorful characters throughout it have really shaped her views and so on. It's really about taking life in, right? Slowing down, reflecting, which is very rare. And Jackie Weaver and Jean Smart are among the very rich supporting cast that elevate the material.
I mean, for sure, it mirrors Coda in some ways, but it also offers a glimpse into a world and a set of challenges that is actually almost never explored on camera. And it has the benefit of such talented comedic actors. I mean, Jackie Weaver, Jean Smart is one of my favorites. I love her from Hacks. And I think it's also interesting that the struggles of what's referred to in sort of psychoanalytic terms as the parentized child, which is basically someone who has to raise their parents because in some way they're immature, is something that I think more people can relate to than just people who've been raised by those with intellectual disabilities.
Sherpa's come a long way since Mad Men, and she's really good in this. You have that eye-rolling moment at the beginning where she's in a coma telling us the whole story in a voiceover, and you're like, uh-oh, I've seen this before. And by the way, you're liking some of these famous people in supporting roles they're kind of wasted. In other words, they had them for a few shooting days and they're in some
But I like that.
scene.
It gets people there. Let's be
Yes,
real.
100%. Brad Garrett, who I'm a big fan of, has a couple of scenes too. And they're,
And actually, Jean Smart is very pivotal, in my opinion.
Jean Smart is good. They're all very good. And this is very much like Champions for me because I thought I wasn't going to like it either. And I found myself almost crying at the end.
Yep.
It's really, really well done for what it is. And I highly recommend it.
I like the film. Look, you mentioned Coda. It really is the same structure as Coda. I mean, Coda is children of deaf adults, and this is children of mentally disabled adults. It's the exact same structure. I mean, the girl is talented and bright, and she's going to sacrifice her future and not go to the great university because she feels a responsibility to the parents. That is Coda. And I think Coda is the better movie, and I wish that I had seen this before Coda, or I might have liked this more. But that said, it is a good movie in its own right. There are some problems. Some of the scenes, like the mother who's like addicted to eating Oreos, I thought that was a little much. But on the other hand, there's a really sensitive, heartwarming scene with the father who teaches the daughter who's 10 years old how to drive.
That was really problematic, actually.
Well, no. Well, I thought it was like he's aware of his own limitations and his wife's limitations, and in case of an emergency. So I thought that was a heartwarming scene. Overall, I'm mixed to positive on it. I think it's good. I think Coda's the better movie.
Stay for the credits, by the way,
Oh, yeah, the
because you're
credits
going to
are
see
good.
pictures of the real people, and you want to do that.
Yeah, the Coda,
By the way, I think you guys liked it more than I did, but I would recommend it. Bill, here's a movie that you wanted us all to watch. God knows why. Take it away. The
Well,
Ritual
it
Killer.
looked, what can I say? It looked good on paper.
Ritual Killer.
Let me speak directly to the camera. Morgan Freeman, what were you thinking? You've done such great work in things like Unforgiven, but for this you cannot be forgiven. Gone Baby Gone, but now that's your career. Dark Knight, that's what I felt like when I was watching this movie.
Alrighty.
And Shawshank Redemption, and from this film there is no redemption. Basically, Cole Hauser is a Mississippi cop hunting a serial-style killer at the behest of a rich guy who's hired him, and then for some reason there are some scenes in Rome we'll show you a second of now for absolutely no reason at all. Maybe they got a tax break. At the end of the day, I can't recommend this, but my real head-scratcher here, besides Morgan Freeman, is that it was written and directed by a guy named George Gallo. Now let me tell you who that is. He wrote one of my favorite movies of all time called Midnight Run, with Robert De Niro and the great Charles Grodin. How that same talent made this movie is beyond me. Don't watch Ritual Killer.
I mean, honestly, it's such hackneyed material that the only thing that distinguishes it is the degree to which it's a mess.
As someone who moonlights as a literature professor, I can say I've had dreams of having my expertise sought out to solve a crime or protect the world from a dystopian nightmare. But this film
Talked you out of that, yeah.
slaughtered those ambitions.
The dream is over.
In defense of Bill, who recommended that we see this before he had seen it, I mean, on paper it sounded promising. Morgan Freeman, maybe a little bit of like the movie Seven, sounded okay. But this is one of the
two.
This is one of the worst films I've seen all year. First of all, the first 40 minutes of the film, and I clocked it. There is just people fighting and chase scenes, and there's no introduction.
Neil, you're making it sound more interesting.
No,
than
but
it
I
is.
was actually going to say, you're
Let's-
actually giving
let's
it
absolutely
some
just
I'm just
say
saying
no
I had
and
no
move on.
investment in any of the characters.
MoveOn.org. MoveOn.org.
Let's ritually kill it.
When Morgan Freeman comes on halfway through the movie.
Okay, here's more about the movie.
No. He
Yeah.
slightly elevates what's a terrible movie, but slightly is really like in quotes here. This is just awful.
I'm like,
Skip
does he
it.
have great
And by the
grandparents,
way-
children to finance, education to finance? Like, why else would he be in this movie?
What's in the other guy's box at the end?
Yeah.
It has as much
Oh,
life
horrible
as
ending.
a staged corpse.
Horrible ending. Skip the ritual killer. The Quiet Girl is an award-winning Irish film about a neglected girl who's sent away from her dysfunctional family to live with distant relatives for the summer. Let's take a look at a clip.
Wel, ich an galinsa. Siasamach, go dáir mé splécha ceartart. An Tá deirg a bhachas tusa. Bhí tú sa Fran, lis go é sin.
Tá Fran bhriste.
Cad a hála go na char.
Dus ó dúidir ché mar bhartha agus héit cean den raí.
Tarsteach. Na.
Bill, tell everybody about The Quiet Girl.
Well, they really don't make them like this anymore. This is a quiet, small movie set in rural Ireland in 1981. That's the 9-year-old Kate, as you mentioned. She's played brilliantly by Catherine Clinch.
What a find.
And yeah,
good.
she's an amazing talent. She is, as you said, living with these distant relatives for the summer because her mother, a very dysfunctional family, is pregnant again. And this distant family that she's staying with has a secret that's going to be revealed over the course of this summer. The young woman, and by the way, this was Ireland's first ever Oscar nomination. And how about those Oscars this year? Always a surprise, huh? Anyway, this is a very quiet, very powerful film about loss, about caring, and about coming of age at a very, very young age in a place that we don't get to see very often. I highly recommend The Quiet Girl.
Well, I think we've seen the Gaelic language, also known as Irish, have a revival in the last 20 years. And director Colin Baird is one of the only filmmakers out there working in both languages. But so much here is about what isn't said, and it's about the space between the lines and the silence or quiet. This director, having primarily worked in documentary before, I think it allows him to have these skills where he lets the scenes breathe, he lets the atmosphere come to life, and able to work well with those who haven't acted before, like Catherine Clinch here. So it's a lot more optimistic than I think it initially sets out to be, and it's celebratory, it's colorful, and
It's beautiful. The cinematography, it's just every shot is just magnificent.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a ravishing looking film, and it's also so warm, and yeah, it actually is quiet, which is such a necessary component of cinema, and it almost never shows up anymore. I think it's kind of an ideal film for this part of the year.
You know,
It's
Bill,
subtitles, but watch it anyway.
well, Bill got it right. They don't really make them like this anymore. I mean, it's a lovely little film that speaks
Right.
volumes about childhood loneliness without using many words. It's in
Anything
the
else?
title. It's in the title.
Yeah, exactly.
The
As
Quiet
we've all
Girl.
said, doll.
And silence is more powerful sometimes than words, as is alluded to in the name of the film.
Not that we practice that.
It's a small, beautiful film that ultimately is emotionally heart-wrenching. Moving on, Justine, tell us about Linoleum.
Well, Cameron's life isn't going well. He's the host of a failing TV science show for children, and his wife is in the final stages of divorcing him. But things take a turn when a mysterious stream of events occur that cause him to question his reality. He starts to delve into the regrets he's had in life and sets out to begin fulfilling his dream of becoming an astronaut by working on a rocket ship in his garage, as one does. This stars comedian Jim Gaffigan, Ray Seahorn of Better Call Saul, also co-headlines this film, and it's a low-key domestic drama that weaves in sci-fi in a way that heightens the emotional tension. It's very organic. It's slowly paced, but there's rewards along the way. There's a deeper meaning here. It's a story about recovering lost dreams, putting back the pieces of a shattered family together, however imperfect. I mean, in that way, this is very surprising and rather touching.
You know, there's a lot of ideas going on in this particular film, and it kind of all comes together with this surprise thing at the end, which I won't reveal, but it's a long way to get to that particular point. I think the director is trying to do the director, his name is Colin West, is trying to like do a little bit of Charlie Kaufman kind of stuff, but he doesn't really quite get there. I was more interested in, there's a subplot with Gaffigan's daughter and a misfit in high school and a misfit new next door neighbor, and they give great performances, Gabriel Bush and Caitlin Nakin, and I was more interested in that story. You know, even though there were some merits here, I'm kind of mixed on the whole thing. Lisa?
I'm with you that subplot is the best part of the movie, because for me, the big reveal at the end is a little less clever than it applauds itself for being, which is too bad, because so much of the Shaggy Dog storytelling here relies on that payoff. So for me, I'll be honest, there's a little bit of a so what factor here.
Look, I think you're all saying the same thing, and there's a real danger of telling too much about this big surprise ending. There's a lot of little payoffs that happen almost from the halfway point on, and we don't want to give any of those away. Yeah, is it Charlie Kaufman light? Okay,
No,
fine, I give you
it's
that.
very
But who
light.
cares? I mean, it's kind of its own thing. Jim Gaffigan is way out of his comfort level here, but I'm okay with it. He's playing two roles, which we didn't mention, and yes, the kids are the more interesting part, but I think we get plenty of them, and I think, again, we don't get to see many movies like this.
Maybe
and
that's
I'm
okay.
very well,
Maybe that's okay.
I'm happy that we get something that's not so formulaic, and for that reason, I'm recommending the, otherwise I have no idea why it's called, Linoleum.
Yeah, I have no idea what it's called, Linoleum.
Why? Yeah.
And it takes, by the way, it takes a lot of patience to get to the end of this particular movie. It has moments.
Kind of like the show so far.
All right.
Moving on a different note, pun intended. Lisa, tell us about
Good
the
one.
new doc, Little Richard, I Am Everything.
Unlike you boys, I'm not always a fan of music documentaries, but this one about the self-proclaimed architect of rock and roll is actually terrific. Especially because without Little Richard, we wouldn't have David Bowie, we wouldn't have Prince, we pretty much would not have anything glam rock or anything gender fluid in rock and roll, or maybe not even rock and roll itself. So this movie, which draws on performance footage and interviews with Little Richard himself, as well as his ex-lovers, men and women, bandmates, cultural analysts, and such legends as Mick Jagger, this movie contextualizes his legacy. You know, he was a larger-than-life, charismatic, and very troubled soul who arguably really was the first rock and roll star, as well as the first person to break gender and sexuality boundaries in that realm.
Yeah.
So,
Boy,
I mean, as a plus for me, it also provides a lot of insight that I hadn't had before into sort of mid-20th century queer and musical subcultures. So, especially in the South, I honestly could not recommend this movie more.
I love it, and he certainly makes the case for Little Richard as Little Richard, because he wasn't going to get the recognition that was due him
Absolutely.
if he didn't go out there and continually remind the world, I'm the guy that did this. And there are lots of people who say, oh, I invented this or I did that.
No, but he really did.
He really
He
did.
really
calls
did.
himself the
And
architect
he's got Mick
of
Jagger.
rock and
He's
roll.
got,
As I said.
he's got all of these people who sit down for this movie and say, you know, this really was the guy. There's a tragic scene in a midway point where he's giving some award away at a thing, and he's like, don't you realize I'm the one, I'm the one, I'm the... And I was cringing for him, but then when he finally does get the recognition he deserves, it's a great little story.
It's actually
arc.
heartbreaking. It's great.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the archival footage here
Oh
alone
my gosh.
is such a draw, and it's been rightly described as a treasure trove. And seeing his career and his life through the lens of so many musicians and figures that we admire, it allows him to be encapsulated in a way that he wasn't during his career. I mean, here's someone who came of age in the segregated South and had so much to contend with.
And was gay.
And was gay.
Well, that's what's, it's the 1950s, which is a segregated unbelievably segregated period in America, and he's bridging the gap. White audiences, teenagers, and black audiences are coming to a show. Plus, as you said, Lisa, I mean, this guy is the architect of glam rock.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's appearing in drag in the 1950s. I mean, it's remarkable.
Not to mention, hearing the original lyrics of Tutti Frutti was very eye-opening.
That was fascinating.
Very eye-opening.
You know, Baz Luhrmann is on the phone right now with his agent going, we've got to get this made into a feature, and somebody will do that.
It's just remarkable the amount of people that this guy influenced and how many people are on camera talking about how much. I mean, the Beatles were intimidated meeting this guy. The Beatles were like, we froze up when we met Little Richard. He influenced everything. Yeah, this is the filmmaker Lisa Cortez tries to really right the wrong in giving this guy his due that he deserves because he really was a pioneer. He's an icon.
Do you think I could be a writer?
Perhaps. You have to show me something first, though.
I have lots of stories.
Should we go back?
What's this?
Oh, yes. My creed.
Don't let Aunt Bee see that.
I don't care if she sees it or not.
Freedom in thought.
Yes, but you can't say it, though. You have to shout it. Freedom in thought!
What are you doing?
You try.
That was a clip from the movie Emily. It's Justine Browning's personal choice as we go around the panel with our Critics' Picks of the Month. Justine.
Yes, well, this is the directorial debut of actress Frances O'Connor, and it centers on a period in the life of author Emily Bronte as she wrote her classic Wuthering Heights. It's all bolstered by a powerhouse performance from Emma McKay, and it captures the complexity of her relationship with her sister Charlotte, who would go on to write Jane Eyre, and her sweeping imagination. It's ripe with scenic beauty. One source of contention, though, that has 19th century Britlit Twitter nerds ablaze is the fact that a character named William Waitman, played by Oliver Jackson Cohen here, is illustrated as the muse for Wuthering Heights, when in fact Emily Bronte did not have a connection, as far as we know, to this fellow, but he was connected to Anne Bronte, the third sister, also an accomplished writer in her own right. So where it takes liberties in ways that can be distracting, I think it's a really bold celebration of work of authors that are fading and we don't celebrate enough.
Yeah, Emma Mackey does a really good job, and it's nice to see Frances O'Connor the actress come out from, in front of the camera to go behind the camera. I think she does a good job too. Okay, next up, Bill, what's your pick?
Well, we had Woody Harrelson in Champions at the top of the show, so I went back and picked the 2009 Zombieland, which in a world right now of so many, The Last of Us and Wandering Dead and Walking People and this, that, and the other thing, is actually a funny zombie movie. There's so many serious ones. You get Woody Harrelson here, Jesse Eisenberg, neurotic as always, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin, and then Bill Murray as a bonus, playing himself and disguising himself so he can act like a zombie and walk around and not be jumped on and eaten, a role, by the way, that Patrick Swayze was supposed to play. This was shot in some real rundown amusement parks, and the broadcast film critics, of which several of us are members, named it one of the best comedies in 2009. So it's just a lot of fun and joy, Zombieland.
Yeah.
It is actually a pretty good zombie movie. It's funny and it's legitimately kind of action-packed, and you gotta love Woody.
It's refreshing, as you said, with all this zombie stuff, to actually see a comedy zombie movie these days. And yeah, if you want to have some laughs with a zombie movie from 2009, I like Zombieland too. Lisa, tell us your pick.
It's All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. This is a doc from Laura Poitras, who's the Oscar-winning director of Citizen4, which is amazing if you haven't seen it. And this one is also nominated for an Oscar, and it is so richly deserved. It's about avant-garde photographer Nan Goldin. It covers 5 decades of her life and work, which really richly captures the oversaturated subversion of Massachusetts and New York counterculture through those decades. And the movie also touches, it covers a lot. It also explores the topics like the AIDS crisis, sexual abuse, the importance of found family, the limitations of genetic family, and this is interesting, Golden's addiction to OxyContin, which led her to her groundbreaking activism against the Sackler family, who, you know, for decades has whitewashed their drug peddling by donating millions to art institutions around the world. I honestly think this is one of the best docs of the last 10 years. I love it.
Well, on the heels of your pick, Lisa, my pick is the Hulu limited series Dopesick, which came out over a year ago, and it stars Michael Keaton, who won an Emmy for his role as a good, caring family doctor whose life is ruined when he becomes addicted to OxyContin. And that happens when he's lied to by a greedy drug rep who tells him it's not addictive and even shows him bogus research and fake studies. Purdue Pharma knew the whole time when they peddled it as a miracle drug that it was all a big, deadly, dangerous lie, triggering one of the worst drug epidemics in American history. There were 8 one-hour episodes with several time-jumping storylines. There's a coal miner played brilliantly by Caitlin Dever,
so good.
yeah, whose life is ripped apart due to the drug. There's Purdue's Sackler family, as you mentioned, their despicable attempts to hide the truth from the public. There's the DEA investigation led by Rosario Dawson, the U.S. attorneys trying to bring Purdue Pharma down, and many of the roadblocks that stand in everyone's way to get to that end. It's not only an informative, harrowing, and gripping drama, it should be required viewing in every classroom in the United States about the dangers of this deadly addictive drug.
Honestly, I agree with you. I learned a lot from this series. The book it's based on, adapted from, is also very good. And the performances here are pretty much spot on, especially Keaton. I love Keaton.
Everybody who thinks they know about, you know, this addictive thing with OxyContin.
It is absolutely amazing how they pushed it through the FDA and how many governmental institutions look the other way. They nail it.
Oh yeah, it's a stunner that Big Pharma paid an awful lot of people.
No,
to
but
get
it's
these
actually
things
pretty
done.
amazing how many corners that they managed to cut.
Well, that's about all the time we have. I want to thank Lisa Rosman, Bill McCuddy, and Justine Browning. I'm Neil Rosen. Join us next time on Talking Pictures.